storm which you've got.
That's that. So that long story short, afterwards, yeah, it's nobody couldn't want to help or nothing at all. I just got a job working around there.
I've cut that myself, I'm sorry. Not tomorrow.
Where's the Chinese restaurant?
I don't know, but welcome to the bunker.
How's it going? Welcome to Truth Today. I'm your host, James Ford. Welcome to the bunker, the outdoors version. Happy 4th of July. I'm going to read the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence. Action of Second Continental Congress, July 4th, 1776. The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established, turning the page, should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, technocracy, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government, the British Crown. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operations till his assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodations of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records, and for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with this measure. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers incapable of annihilation have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for our purpose obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising conditions of new appropriations of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judicial powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us, in times of peace, standing armies without the consent of our legislature, the police state, militarizing the police. He has affected to render the military independent of the superior, and he has affected to render the military independent and superior to the civil powers, the covert deep state that we're living with. He has combined Homeland Security. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution. He has combined, I'm going to read that again. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution, we're living in that today, and acknowledged and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation. When we act in a world that is not derived from our constitutional principles, but are derived from global economic principles, this is what's happening. For quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretending offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies. For taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, altering fundamentally the forms of our governments, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, Middle East, desolation and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy, scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens, taking captive on the high seas, to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fail themselves by their hand. To fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections, this is happening here amongst us, and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers. I'm going to read that again. He has excited domestic insurrections among us, and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. Name sound familiar? In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince, whose charter is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant, is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Now have we been wanting in intentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We reminded them of the circumstances of our emigration and settlement here. We've appealed to their native justice and magnanimity. I always mess that up. And we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondences. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consanguinity. Not reading well today. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation, and hold them, as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. We therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, happy 4th of July, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, and they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Happy 4th of July, the Declaration of Independence. I'm just going to read the First Amendment. You could read the Constitution yourself. Right? The Amendment 1. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of a religion, separation of church and state, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Read that yourself. On the 4th of July, it's not about pledging allegiance to a flag. It's about understanding the Constitution of the United States of America. It's okay to pledge allegiance to the flag, but it's a secondary act, because the flag only is a symbol. The Declaration of Independence and the Constitution is the United States of America. And when we put too much concern and, what's the word? We put too much on an act of a practice such as, say, pledging allegiance to the flag, which is understood. People get together and it's a way of respecting the flag. But what happens is that the flag is just an image. And if people don't understand the Constitution, and they don't realize what their Constitution and their rights are, they really don't know what they're pledging allegiance to. And then other people can tell them a different story. So you can have people pledging allegiance to the flags that have no understanding of the Constitution, of their rights, and people could tell them a different story. So they could be pledging allegiance to something totally different. And that's what's happening in our country. It's what has happened. And when you go around and now you see places would have augmented flags, black and white flags with stripes through them, those flags have a different story. So what happens is people are pledging allegiance to those flags with a different story behind them. And this is what happens. And people may not understand, and people may have good intent, but don't understand that what a principle is. A principle is something, and I'm not preaching here. I just had a conversation with someone who said yesterday, and I won't go into detail, but who said that, well, I was like, well, it's about, and I mentioned that, it's about constitutional principles. He says, well, that's changed. It's all different. A principle doesn't change. The law of gravity doesn't. The law of gravity is a principle. If it doesn't matter what you think, what you care. The law of gravity would always change. Our Constitution is based on those types of principles of the human condition. You don't alter because an event happens. You don't change. You don't try to change your actions are related to principles. But people have convinced us, like 9/11, oh, the whole world has changed. No, the whole world didn't change. A bad event happened. But people used it to manipulate a situation to make changes that they wanted to. It's like the Constitution, because the Constitution are principles. You can't alter the Constitution. But for some reason, people took advantage of that situation. So, I didn't intend to get to go on that route, but it just naturally comes up because it's what's happening. Homeland Security is unconstitutional. Patriot Act is unconstitutional. These are not acts derived from constitutional principles. Sorry. It's just the way it is. You should be understanding what the Constitution is, what the United States of America is. The United States is not even its borders. We could add on 8 more states somewhere around the world, and it would be the Constitution that makes the United States of America the unique country that it is. It is not the land, it's not the flag, and it's certainly not God. Because as you see, Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion. God, inalienable rights endowed by the Creator. That's your choice. That's your story. Has nothing to do with our Constitution. That's not me, that's not my opinion. I may have a view that's maybe off of it, but what I'm relating to you is not an opinion. It's not. I don't even want to be talking about this really, but I feel impelled to because it's the truth, and our people are being misguided, and we're going off a cliff. Hopefully, I'm wrong. So, I hope you're having a great day. Hope you're with people you love. I hope you're with friends. And I hope you can take a little time to know that the reason why we do enjoy this is not because of the economic system that we're in. It is partly. But the Constitution made us a free people. And it gave us the opportunity to participate in an economy as such. But it's being changed around. And you can't give away the Constitution. Well, actually, we don't have a right. That's what the Declaration is. It's like the people who are altering the Constitution with such things as the Patriot Act really do not have a right. It's a usurpation of of natural law that is endowed by the Creator. That's what it's about. We don't have kings. You cannot take that away. But anyway, I'm going on. Pardon me. So this is a little quick thing from the outdoors of the bunker. I'm James Ford, hoping that you're having a great day. Happy 4th of July.